So today I'm gonna guide you through my drawing process from the art supplies that I use up till the very end details that I add to my drawing. It's not supposed to be a straight up tutorial, but just a more in-depth video to show you how I draw. Alright, let's get into it. Here are the supplies that I'm gonna be using in my today's video. Leuchttrum 1917 A5 sketchbook. It's pretty good for markers, but I definitely wouldn't advise it for beginners. For the sketching supplies, Prismacolor Col-Erase pencils, Pentel or Rens 0.5 mechanical pencil, kneaded erasers, and a Faber-Castell eraser. For the outline section, I'm using KURETAKE MANGAKA FINELINERs in 003 and 005. For coloring, I'm gonna be using Copic markers and Winsor & Newton Promarkers. And for shading, Prismacolor Premier pencils mixed with Faber-Castell Polychromos pencils. And last but not least, for white highlights, I'm gonna be using Unibold Signal white gel pen and an Art & Fly white gel pen. Okay, so first things first, I'm gonna very lightly sketch the concept for my today's drawing with the Prismacolor pencil. I know you probably won't see very much right now, but that's the point of the initial sketches. I do them very lightly just so I can go over them with a regular pencil or again with the Prismacolor pencil and fix it or add some more lines without being interrupted with too aggressive sketch at first. I really hope you guys know what I mean. So here I'm starting off with basic shapes and I'm building the body structure onto it. Here, if you don't manage to find a good reference for your drawing, for your pose, it's always the best to be your own model. And yeah, I know it sounds a little bit cringy, but well, just take a picture of yourself doing the pose you want to draw, and in this manner you'll be able to nail all the proportions. So like I said, it's quite, let's say, controversial and definitely cringy method, but it really works, believe me. And now once I'm done with my very light and gentle outline, I'm going over it with a darker pencil, and this is quite optional, you don't need to be as extra, let's say. You can just stick with the same Prismacolor pencil and just do your outline a little bit more harsh so it's more visible. But since I want to switch it up a little bit and I'm being a little bit extra honestly, I'm just taking a darker Prismacolor pencil and I'm going over the most crucial lines of my sketch to make it more visible for myself and for you guys. Now once I'm happy with my sketch, I'm gonna go in with a mechanical pencil. I love to use them instead of regular wooden pencils just because they are way more accurate and precise, and well, they also don't break as often, you don't need to sharpen them, and well, overall they are just way easier to work with. I used to work with wooden pencils way back in the day and I also been through that, so I have a quite good comparison in what they feel like and what they do basically. So once I tried mechanical pencils, I never went back to wooden ones, so well, that's my point of view on that. Anyway, in this step, I'm just going over the sketch to create a very neat outline. Again, I'm not pressing too hard with this pencil, but I'm making sure the sketch is clean and visible on top of the Prismacolor layers. Moving on to the very last point of our sketching part, which means the outline. I'm taking my MANGAKA 0.03 fineliner and I'm going over my outline once more. Here this step is really up to your own personal preference, but I'm not a fan of a harsh outline for my drawings since I feel like it doesn't complement my style very well, so I'm being very light-handed with the fineliner. Usually I'm not even fully pressing it against the surface of the paper, so it doesn't create those bold and thick lines. Even though it's a really thin fineliner, I'm trying to be really careful with it. And I'm doing that in this very weird manner just because I like to add my outline later on during the process of coloring. I feel like that just works well with my drawings and I'm kind of used to that, so that's just my kind of technique. But of course, if you're someone that likes to have a bold outline for your drawings, I think that would be the moment that you could do it just before coloring, so you can start off with a clean base for adding the colors. And once once the outline is done, I'm gonna quickly erase the layer from underneath the outline with my kneaded eraser. I prefer to use those kneaded erasers instead of the regular ones, especially for this step because they are just more gentle and they leave a little bit of my sketch layer still on the paper, so I'm still able to see all the details because, like you could tell, my outline is not very precise, so in this manner I'm getting rid of the excess graphite pigment, but I'm still able to see all of the details of my sketch. Alright, and now we're finally getting into coloring. I'm always starting with coloring the face because if I don't like how the face turns out, I probably won't continue on with the drawing. I feel like if the face is done well, it kind of sets the pace for the further coloring and it just keeps me motivated to finish it, if that makes sense. Anyway, I'm starting off with applying the lightest color first. And then I'm gonna add a tone or 2 tones darker shade compared to the first shade that I used, just to add some shading to the face. That didn't really make sense, but I hope you know what I'm saying. And then once this is done, I'm blending everything out with the lighter shade I used first. Here I'm also being quite light-handed, so I'm able to add some more shading or coloring later on. Here, to be able to do proper shading on your face, I would once more advise you to take a picture of yourself with the source of light in the desired direction. In this way, you're gonna be able to make your drawing look very natural. And once I have the base coloring of the face, I'm quickly coloring the lips, eyes and eyebrows. Next we're getting into a bit more complicated part. I'm gonna be enhancing the coloring of the face that I just did with the colored pencils. Here I'm basically following the scheme, let's say, of shading that I did with markers, but I'm just layering some pencils on top of it to make it look more seamless and airbrushed. I honestly feel like I have a way better control over colored pencils than I have with markers, so that's why I really like to add them to my drawings for this extra finesse. And here you can be very intuitive with your colored pencils. Just follow the natural shapes of the face, try to make everything more, let's say, rounded, if you want it to be round, of course, and just blend everything together. It should look really good. Of course, if you're just starting out with the colored pencil technique, I would advise you do some testing beforehand and just practice a little bit before you start coloring in faces. But I also don't think that colored pencil technique is super complicated, so I hope that with some practice you all will do very well. Once the face is pretty much done, but well, not completely, you can see that her eyes need some more work, but I'll take care of that later on. I'm moving on to coloring her hair. The hairstyle I picked for her is quite tricky, I'm not gonna lie, but I'm sure you guys will manage. I'm starting off with a base color, and since I'm drawing curls, I like to follow their shape with the marker. This coloring technique makes it so much easier for further shading. I'm also going to add the darker color to the most shaded areas of the hairstyle. Usually it will be around the face and near the neck. And then I'm basically gonna do a bit of freestyling, let's say, with the color pencils on top of the marker base. Because I'm just following the shape of the curls and I'm trying to be quite irregular with everything, so the hairstyle just looks natural. Of course, I don't want to be totally random with it. I'm just trying to, keep the shape of the hairstyle kind of together. But here you can also use some references of the curly hair. It really helps if you're just starting out. So yeah, I think a little bit of imagination, intuition, and maybe some reference picture, and you'll be ready to draw some hairstyles. Okay, and now I'm gonna be finishing the coloring of the rest of her body. First, I'm finishing up with the skin parts, and here I'm using the exact same technique like I used with coloring in her face. First, I'm going in with a marker base and with some first shading, and then I'm just blending everything together with color pencils, and I'm just enhancing the skin shading, and I'm trying to, you know, make it look a little bit more three-dimensional and more finessed. For her top, I didn't want it to do anything super complicated, so I just drew a basic black tank top, let's say. And the coloring here is gonna be pretty easy because the top is gonna be obviously a little bit more shaded, means darker, on the edges of it, let's say. So in the places where the top sticks to the body, I hope that makes sense. And of course in its center, it's gonna be a little bit more highlighted. And as the very last part of my today's drawing, I'm gonna color in her jeans with the belt. And since those jeans are definitely not the main part and main focus of my today's drawing, I'm not gonna pay that much attention to coloring them. I'm just gonna obviously do some basic shading, but nothing extraordinary, I would say. And of course here I'm using the exactly same technique, first the marker base and some coloring and shading with color pencils. And well, this is pretty much how I draw. I really hope that you found such video enjoyable but also helpful. I love to share my drawing process with you guys along with some tips and tricks so you can use it for your own drawings and you can basically improve with me. So well, that would be pretty much all for today. Thank you guys so much for watching and for hanging out with me today. Make sure you leave a like for this video and subscribe to my channel to not miss any of my future uploads. I love you all so much and I can't wait to see you in my upcoming videos. Take care, bye!
I'm just going with the gut, never had a doubt, felt like this is just a must. Put me in perspective, I'm the deepest in the cut. Everybody tuning in, but this is just for us now.